This video is going to be very controversial. It's going to upset a lot of people. And I'm probably never ever going to be able to buy another car from Everyman Racing again. But when the legend that Mat Armstrong is phones you and says, "Hey mate, there's a car I want to buy from Everyman Racing," and I can't buy from them again. I've muddied the waters, I bought the Murcielago, I've dragged them through the dirt, and there's no way I can show my face there again and buy a car. I said, "What do you have in mind, mate? Come on, tell me what you need." He said, "I'll do anything you want. Just let me know what you need. I'm your man in need. And when times are tough, I will step forward and help you out, Mr. Mat Armstrong." And he said, "Well, there's a Ferrari 360 up at Everyman Racing, and I really would like to buy it." I was like, "Cool." So I phoned the guy who was my contact. I said, "There's a 360 available." Turns out he'd sold it the day before. So I phoned Matt back. Said he's sold the 360, but he actually has a 430 manual car, which is in parts just like the Murcielago that Mat Armstrong built, and it's pretty in a bad state. There's parts missing, and as a mechanically minded man, I know what I'm looking for, like the little details. I'm looking for throttle bodies, I'm looking for a starter motor, alternator, air conditioning pump, all these little details that would be very easy to lose and sell on eBay, but very hard to replace for a very small amount of money. And considering this car was supposed to be complete, there was lots of parts missing. So basically, Tavares and Chiro had told Matt that I'm a good guy and I'm not going to throw his money away and I'm not a risk. He wired me thousands of pounds, £60,000 in total into my bank, which is a lot of money. I proceeded with the lovely people, Mr. Scott Rattarossa and Freddie Hernandez himself, on a one-way ticket to Leicestershire to Everyman Racing. And I went in there, and a lot of you people at home will remember this, I went in there with the sole idea of buying a manual supercar for me. I'm going to buy my first ever supercar. So that basically it was a bit of a ruse. I let all of you people at home know I was going to go buy a supercar. I was going with my best YouTuber pals to Everyman Racing, which everyone had heard of, and I bought the car with my two specialists, Mr. Rattarossa, the man, the myth, the legend when it comes to Ferraris, and Tavares, who's probably not the best person to take me because he's got a really good idea of buying stuff that is either too far gone or too much money. And I ended up going around it, and the gearbox was in pieces, there was pumps and pipes missing, wiring harnesses missing, center consoles, door cards, bumpers. This car was a mess. And I convinced the guys at Everyman Racing I was buying it for myself. We did an amazing video, and I convinced hundreds of thousands of you people at home as well that I was buying it for myself. And basically the second video was me having the realization on the way home that I'd bitten off far more than I could chew, buying a supercar that was far too much work for me, including the time and effort it would need would never get done, just like the rest of the projects you are screaming at the screen right now telling me I should finish. And basically we got it halfway back, and the story on my YouTube was that let's pop in and see Mat Armstrong and see how he's getting on with the Murcielago, because this was before the Gumball Rally. And we pulled in, and obviously for my video, I pretended that it was too much work, and I decided to hand over this burden to Mat Armstrong, when the realization was I'd actually bought it with his money for him anyway. And that was the story of how I managed to get it. But Mat Armstrong is truly a fire. He is ripping through the woodlands of YouTubers. He is destroying everyone in his path, but with some of the most lovely and idealistic ideas he has. He has got his family beside him, his beautiful, lovely lady, his dog Kevin. He's got everyone there in this family unit, but building cars that we'd only ever dreamed of, but still in that guy next door ethics. He's learning as he goes. He is welding. He's trying to learn to weld. He's pulling dents out. He is basically repairing cars with not any massive knowledge. And for me as a YouTuber and a friend of his, it is so humbling to watch someone that cares so much, not only about building the cars, but showing each and every one of you at home with any kind of mechanical level of knowledge how it's been done, how it's going to be done, and also in such a fun and understandable way that keeps you captivated till the very last minute of the video. And then by then you're hooked and you're watching another 3 videos that you didn't really care about, but they end up to be just as good as the one you watched. So the money was already in my account. And I am very, very good at protecting people's money when, number one, I know that the item is in my hands. I have documentation to prove what it is, and I've done my background checks to make sure that the car is safe and sound. The main issue I had with this car is that Matt hadn't seen it. He hadn't touched it. He hasn't felt it. He hasn't done his inspection of it. And I know I'm a qualified Mercedes mechanic, but for me, now my reputation was on the line. I know he was paying me to do a job. Sam, his 60 grand, go buy the car. That's my job. He didn't really care what he was collecting. I was more worried about the parts that were missing. I ruffled through the shelves and found the engine cradle. I found the wiring harness. I found the door card. I found the front bumper. I found all those little bits that just a recovery driver wouldn't have found. If it was me and it was my 60 grand, I wouldn't have bought that car. But only because of all of you lovely people at home know I wouldn't have been able to do it justice. I don't have the money to back it up. I don't have the means of making that car what it deserves to be. And being put on the spot like that, knowing that I had one job to do, I needed to make sure that I did everything the best I could. I needed to dot those I's, I needed to cross those T's, and I needed to deliver to Matt what I promised. And then when I dropped this car off, I imagined one thing. He was going to do something with this car that was beautiful and special, and it was serenity. That car was going to be brought back to life in a way that no other man would. Most mechanics or any garages out there would throw some bits together, lap it up with some dodgy paintwork, get a V5 or a title and throw it back up for sale and make a quick buck. What he did, not only did he liaise with Scott Ratterossa for mechanical and technical advice, he worked with Tavares for an engine. He worked with his dad and his whole team to build that car, not only to a good standard, but to the best standard ever. When I watched the build, there were certain aspects of the car which really worried me. Little details like the window regulators were missing, the door lock mechanisms were missing, but then when you start looking into the engine and how bad it was, and even with the second engine that he got from Freddie, it felt a little bit like his luck was starting to run out. He got another engine from Freddie, he stripped it apart, and it was also damaged. It felt like he wasn't going to get to where he needed to, and most YouTubers and most people out there would give up, like myself with the first GT40. I'm not a rich guy. I have a 9-to-5 job as well as being a YouTuber, as well as being a family man and trying to put money on the table. I don't have the money to be able to go buy another $25,000 Ferrari engine to rebuild. I'm not that person. But Matt honestly humbles me of one of the best mechanics, one of the most beautifully self-taught engineers I have ever seen. He cares about the finesse of his work. He cares about the panel gaps. He cares that the parts that go in that car are right for the year of the car. He's not afraid to lift the phone and ask for help and give credit where credit's due. He gives thanks to people like Mr. Ratterossa, Mr. Tavares on film for helping them every step of the way. He's a humble guy. He works his ass off. He's going to be known as a Hall of Fame mechanic here in the United Kingdom. I know it's not that thing. We don't have the Hall of Fame in England, but for someone that is self-taught, family-run, and dedicated to deliver something to his viewers, there's not another guy out there like it. And I'll tell you what, that is how this YouTube world is going to move forward. He, in my opinion, will probably overtake some of the biggest automotive YouTubers in the world, and people are going to follow suit. He is the new Richard Rawlings. He is the new Mike Brewer. He is the future of the car TV world. And then to see at the end of it, him hand those keys over to his dad was the most heartwarming thing I think I've ever seen. His dad, through a lot of the amazing Ben Fowler podcasts, wasn't there as much when he was younger, and that wasn't his dad's choice through what I heard in the interview. It was the fact that Matt was out with his mates and having a laugh and skateboarding and riding his BMX, right, and doing these amazing things. And it wasn't until later on in life that we all realised that we could have spent more time with our parents. And for him to have that feeling like I do next to your dad working every single day, it's something that you cannot pay for. And for that car to come from that junkyard with the ruse, I'm sorry Everyman Racing, but to deliver it to him and him deliver on his promises to do the best for that car would only lead to some of the best things that have happened in my life. Not only did I give him that car and helped him out and didn't charge him any money, I'm here to help him out. He's a friend of mine. That then led me on to going to take his Murcielago to Edinburgh Castle for the Gumball, which then got me in my Countach across the line at Battersea Power Station. Good things come to those who do good things.
This month of Vinwiki Car Stories is brought to you by Bridgestone. We've talked a lot this year about the Potenza range of tires for sports cars and supercars, but what I'm personally most excited about right now is the Dueler AT Ascent. It is their latest and greatest tire for on-road and off-road capability. I've tried so many tires for my off-road kinds, but this really seems like it's going to be perfect. It's got full-depth interlocking 3D sights and it is their latest and greatest product, so it should give me all the off-road capability and wet and snow and everything else that I want to put it through, as well as much better road manners. So check them out as well as the whole range of Bridgestone products to find out what's perfect for your ride at the link in the description below, and look forward to more amazing content on Vinwiki from Bridgestone.